My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice cold. I'm only here to even a score. Whoa. My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice cold. I'm down right now, but did it before. Whoa. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is on up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is on up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Night in Ones podcast, episode number 38. Hopefully, I woke you up. I'm just so hyped from that music, from that video. I told you guys this last week. It gets me ready every single week, so I'm hoping it's getting y'all up because we up. So we are the only podcast that features a former UCF National Champion, a former UCF radio host, an ESPN analyst, and hoops player, and infamous rapper. Our resident influencer, a little foreshadowing there. If you guys follow along, you know that's a little different. An IG star, shooting the breeze, talking UCF Sports. And this week, I'm excited to announce we had over 10,000 views on the YouTube channel. We've been on here for a short period of time, but thanks to you for listening, watching, liking, commenting, following, all the things. And helping us be successful. We also have a little merch alert. So we've been working with one of our partners to bring you some TK1 branded merch. We might get a little, pretty close to Space U colors, a little black, a little gold in there. So we're going to make you look as fly as what we're going to. And as soon as we have some out, we'll model it for you because you know you want to see us. Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching this channel. Also, I wanted to wish a quick happy belated Mother's Day to all the moms out there. We all have them, and they do great things, and we wouldn't be able to bring this to you without them. Thank you so much for everything that you've done for us, you continue to do for us, and appreciate what you do every day. And also, unlike usual, I'm not going to bring Nobra in first this week. I'm actually going to bring the newest member to the TK1 team. Nye, welcome to the stage.
What's up, everybody? I'm Nye, and I'm coming to the team just recently, but I'll be a junior at UCF, and I'm excited to get things rolling.
Yeah, Nye has graciously given her talents and her grace and her IG prowess and is allowing us to leverage that to help us bring our content to you. She's going to be handling our social media presence going forward. She's going to be working with all the great guests that we have that come on, and we're super excited to have her. She's excited to be a UCF student. She's a hooper. She's extremely intelligent. Go check out her LinkedIn if you haven't. You'll be as impressed as I was, and we're super excited to have you. So thank you for being on the show and joining the crazy.
Thank you so much.
All right, and no, bruh. He thought he got a break. I was gonna end my little monologue there for a little second earlier because you had a big bite of a burrito like right there. I was gonna bring you on to that happen. So hey, where's your intro? Come on, bro.
Hey now.
Hey now. All right, there we go. All right. Oh, Eddie's got a little drink to wash it down. A little drink. All right. Well, welcome back to the show. We missed you last week. I did notice that you got rid of our text talk. I was trying to find that banner, and you just completely threw me off last week. So it's back on there now. Don't worry about it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. All right. Let's do the hair flip. Let's get it out of the way. Oh, there it is. All right. And someone who can't give us a hair flip this week, Ben Stout, because he's got his hat back on. Welcome back, Ben Stout.
What's up? Good to be back, guys.
Excited to have you, our very own 7-footer, the only man that makes me look like a toddler whenever I'm around. There it is, and the only one that brings fireworks to the show every single week. Next, we have Alan Levin. Welcome back, Alan.
Hey, what's going on?
Doing great, dude. continuing that extra IG content under the UCF Football Updates handle. If you aren't checking that out, make sure you're following that handle as well, because it's got great content. He keeps it up all the time. I don't know how he has time to do any work, but it's definitely worth a follow. Next is Trey Neal. Trey Neal has a background, people. What's going on? He's getting tech savvy now.
Trying to, man. I don't know.
Are you in that picture? Are you like somewhere down there, like on the
No,
sideline?
I don't think I ever played with the black end zones. Not that I remember, but I mean that was 20 years ago now.
Oh,
20 years ago. I played 20 plus years ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say, bro, you'd have like gray hair like this if it was 20 years ago. Come on now.
Yeah, I'm on my way, man. I'm on my way.
If I looked like you at 43, like I'd be a happy camper, but I'm 43 and that ain't happening.
It's close. Well, I'm about 41 almost.
Yeah, 41 and a half. 41 and a half. So all of you know he played on our 2017 team, so that couldn't happen. But I'm excited to have you back this week. I know you've missed a couple of shows because you've been helping the medical doctors do their thing and taking care of patients. So thank you for everything that you do. We miss you, but we understand. And last but not least, but certainly not last, Josh Lazar.
OPP, how can I explain it? I'll take you from my frame it to have you all jump and shout and saying it. O is for other, P is for people scratch their temple. The last P, well, that's pretty simple, pod.
Okay.
All right. That one's short and sweet. Bring a little OPP.
Trying. And I got smiles. This is good. Because
yeah, a little better reaction than last week. We were like, are you ever gonna stop rapping? Or I mean, I know you really got into it.
No, he shouldn't. He shouldn't stop.
Josh, listen.
Yeah.
Who's winning the beef right now? We're about a week removed of some silence. Now we can just let him marinate.
The analysis.
I think you lose the battle as soon as someone goes A minor.
Oh boy!
It's a family-friendly show.
It's over. I mean,
hey, remember, Josh, we're rated E for everyone.
That doesn't mean anything. No one.
Minor.
Oh, he was just referencing music.
Yeah,
right.
Minor.
He's referencing the key.
Yeah,
not that the B sharp even really
did.
quite exists.
yeah,
but
exactly.
listen, in Billboard Top 100, 3 diss tracks beat out Drake's diss track. 3. What are you gonna say? Come on, it's over.
Well,
and I love lyricist. I like lyricism, and even Kendrick said I like Drake with the dancing beats. I don't like mean Drake, right? But it's true. You know, just want to get in your feelings and all that, right? That's
oh boy, now he's talking about feelings. All right, we're gonna cut you off there, Josh. We're not talking about feelings on a sports show. Come on, bro. You got in your feels last week. We let you have it. You know, you got to get that out of your system, bro.
Yeah.
All right. So super excited. Nye's gonna hang out with us backstage for a little while. Nobra, of course, will pop off so he can finish his burrito. And I do want to. We'll never get Drake on our show now.
This is why you watch on YouTube, because we all start laughing and you're listening to this in your car and you're like, why are they laughing?
Yeah, exactly. You gotta watch the humorous banners that go across the screen as the inside jokes go on.
Don't watch YouTube while you're driving there, listeners. Don't.
Yeah.
That's fair too.
Yeah. So real quick, before we let Nye go backstage, she, as I mentioned earlier, she's going to be taking over our social media presence. So make sure you support her. She opened up. Obviously, we had a Twitter account, but we also now have an IG account. So make sure you follow us at the Knighted Ones. Nye's going to be taking care of that, and she's even better than Eric DeSalvo is what I heard. So
what?
Whoa. So high praise there. Eric, if you're listening, I love you, bro, but Nye's coming for you. Just going to put that out there. So make sure you're following her.
That's the clip. Do that clip with 2 little sandhill cranes walking towards Eric DeSalvo.
That's the clip. All right. All right. Eric diss track coming soon. Oh, are we gonna have a wrap off with Eric DeSalvo? I don't know if I can handle that. That mustache has got me, bro.
I think Eric can spit some game. I'd be up for
Oh,
that.
I wouldn't be surprised. Like I wouldn't be surprised. Eric knows I've known Eric for many, many years. He's a great dude. All right, Nobra, I'm kicking you off the stage. Nye, whenever you want back on, make sure you use that private chat. And yeah, that didn't sound right on here, did it?
The only chat me on myself.
She's gonna be in our collective DMs here. You know. So
to agree.
Right.
I'm sorry, Nye. I don't know what's right.
All right, let's get back to sports before we get ourselves in trouble. All right. So first of all, let's talk a little UCF football. There's a lot to talk about. Believe it or not, we keep saying this, right? It's the off season, but and spring ball is over. We don't have fall ball yet, but there's still a lot of movement for UCF. So we've got a few things to talk about there. We've got some questions, about whether UCF has built a team that is ready to win in the Big 12 next season. So we'll talk about that a little bit. There's some new things, some continuations of the whole realignment game and the questions that are going on there. And then Trey's going to get paid, and we'll talk about that a little bit as well. So after that, yeah, exactly. Making it rain. He's going to make it rain on us. So the show be sorry.
Make it rain.
Yeah. Oh boy. That's terrible.
Oh.
All right. UCF basketball has some exciting news too. We've got some new transfers coming in and another new coach to talk about. So Ben will walk us through that. And we've got some postseason play to talk about. So lots of exciting stuff to talk about. But let's start with UCF football. And Alan, why don't you take us away on your transfer portal update?
Yeah, so UCF used up their final scholarship spot. It's been a pretty busy spring for UCF in the portal. They now landed their 8th edition of the spring window. So we're very busy and now have used up all their scholarship spots and came from former UAB cornerback Mac McWilliams. So becomes a 24th transfer overall, and crazy to say he's the 9th DB of this transfer cycle and fourth one of this window alone. So UCF or Gus Malzahn really prioritized the secondary, it appears. I know we'll get into this a little bit. I feel like it was a little bit overkill on the DBs, but this is a guy that played 4 solid years over at UAB. He was on the all freshman team in Conference USA his freshman season. He's been able to accumulate 100 tackles, 23 pass breakups, an interception, and 2 forced fumbles over the past 4 years. Had a pretty solid redshirt junior year last year. It was probably his best year in college. So he's on the right track there. He's gotten pretty much better almost every single year, at least statistically. So he is slated to play cornerback at UCF. So I believe.
Dude, how many cornerbacks do we have now?
I mean, he's the 5th cornerback transfer alone of the cycle. I mean, on the team now, I was counting total people in the secondary between DBs and safety is like 24 right now. So I think that makes
that's too low. I think we need to get up to about 85 DBs.
Yeah, it's an insane amount.
I think the cap right now for players is 120 on a roster. So think about that. That's a quarter. That's literally a quarter of our team is the defensive backs.
Trey Neal running this team? I mean, what's
that's why I put
I love my secondary, but that's way too many guys. Holy
it's too many. I mean, it's something that's why I put in the show notes. But when you talk about the 9 they brought in, not to mention they got, I believe, 4 or 5 high school DBs too. So we have 14 new defensive backs on the team just in this last 3 to 4 months alone. So I don't know, interesting pickup. Does look like a guy that has a lot of experience, and I know that seemed to be what Coach Malzahn prioritized in the portal this time around. Was for the most part it was experienced guys that have made an impact on their previous team, not projects, not prospects that could be good in the future. This is a guy that's only going to have 1 year of eligibility left. So I'm assuming he's coming here to play right away. 5'10", 185 pounds. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it on him. He did play at a fairly good high school. I was looking them up. Pine Forest High in Pensacola have produced quite a few NFL players. Alfred Morris, who played at FAU and was on the Commanders and a couple other teams, came out of there. They've won a couple national championships in 5A. So comes from a good program out of high school, was a 3-star guy, had a few Power 5 offers, but obviously ultimately went to UAB.
Yeah, I was going to say, wasn't he also a team captain as well? If I remember,
he was that. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, he was a team captain last year. So, guy that's a good locker room guy and has a lot of experience. And yeah, I mean, I guess the more depth, the better. But I'm not sure I quite understand the strategy with so many DBs.
Yeah, Picola up from my neck of the woods. So, as most of you know, I'm in the Panhandle most when I'm not in Orlando. So that particular school has turned out quite a bit of NFL talent, and up here it's not as prevalent as it would be in Orlando, Miami, or Tampa or Jax. But that particular school up here turns out a decent amount of talent. All right, who else we got?
So that was the only incoming transfer. I don't know if we ever spoke this. I kind of just noticed that. I don't know. It wasn't really on Twitter announced, but Jarvis Ware, who played decent amount of reps for us for the past couple years, just had a lot of injury woes. Guy that transferred in from Missouri, I think in Malzahn's second season, he actually transferred out. So I don't think that's something we ever discussed, but UCF now has 7 DBs have transferred out. So I guess 9 incoming. They're kind of, I guess, in somewhat replacing the depth that they lost. But that was by far both on the losing side and gaining side of the position that we retooled with most and lost most. So interesting there. And then the other recruiting update is we got our first 2026 high school commit. It's 4-star wide receiver, Keon Chapman. He's a pretty big dude, 6'3", 180 pounds. He's out of Jackson, Alabama. So far, he's had a little bit of attention as far as college recruiting. Arkansas, South Carolina, and our conference mates TCU have all offered him a scholarship. Doesn't seem to be a lot on him. On3 gives him a 4-star, but Rivals and 247 don't have a ranking for him. I think that's just because it's early on in his high school. He's a sophomore, I guess, or a rising junior.
2026, he's going to be a sophomore. This will be I think his junior year in the fall, right?
Rising junior. Yeah.
So he hasn't hit the camps yet. He hasn't probably got a lot of evaluation yet from the recruiting sites because they tend to really pick that up in junior and senior years. And from what I understand, he hasn't really hit that many camps. But, I mean, 6'3", 180 pounds,
big dude
as a
already.
sophomore in high school?
Yeah, that's pretty big.
Yeah. I wouldn't have said it that way, but I would have he's a good outside threat for 50-50 balls. So, we needed someone that has height to go on the outside. I know Gus Malzahn likes that. And 6'3", that's pretty solid. He might actually have some more room to grow, honestly, as a sophomore. If he's 6'3" and 180, but 6'3" and 180. I mean, Trey, high school, do you think that's...
I grew an inch from my junior year to my first year on campus.
Really? In between?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
I stopped, I guess 20 years old is when I stopped growing.
Yeah.
19 or 20 something. Yeah.
I was a 6'10" sophomore in high school, so
oh my goodness.
From that point on.
I was like 5. I was my height. I'm right around 5'11", and I was that height when I entered high school. So like I played center when I went into high school, like for middle school into high school, and then like by my freshman sophomore year, I was playing guard. So that's just it was crazy. I did all my growing right before I went into high school, and then everybody else caught up. But that's why I'm not 6'10" like Ben.
Well, this guy, if he grows any more before he gets to UCF, we're gonna have to put him on the basketball team instead.
Well, I mean,
man, We could use a
do have
really
a
small receiver. That'd be great.
No, I
Yeah, and we do have a 6'10" O lineman. I mean, I'm just saying, Paul Rugo.
That's true.
Have you stood beside him yet, Ben?
No, I've never met him or stood beside him. Now.
He's tall.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's
tall.
not as tall as Ben. I just want to see someone who's taller than him.
Yeah, he's
Taco.
Taco made me look like an average human being, or at least he made me look like I make other tall people look.
Taco doesn't look real. He doesn't look real.
Have
It
you
was
guys
wild to
seen
see, man. I have this great picture with Taco and my family, and it's just
Oh,
a
you gotta
funny
share
thing
it.
to see
You gotta-
'cause
you
it
gotta
makes me
share
look
that.
normal. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
have to share that. I'll bring that next week. I'll find it and I'll dig it up and we'll have it next week.
There's
Awesome.
a great picture of Taco next to Kevin Durant, and he makes Durant look like really like short. There's like a noticeable difference between them, which is crazy. And Durant's like 7 foot.
Yeah, he's 6'11", 7 foot. Yeah.
Is Taco still playing in China, right?
Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah.
Well, hopefully he gets back to the States. He's cleaning house over there, so he's making a fair amount of money for himself, and that's good. Now going back to this recruit, I mean, like thinking about how early in the cycle this is. So if it's 2026, so it's a 2026 recruit.
He's a
We're
sophomore
2
now.
falls away from we're two Decembers away from signing.
Yeah, that's like 2.5 years before he can sign, right?
Correct. Yeah. So he'll probably decommit. I mean, it's.
Yeah,
Well, I wouldn't say that he would decommit because we've had a couple others that were really, really early too. Tavion Swint was early. There were several that were.
Tavion Swint still hasn't signed yet. He's 2025. So
I don't know who was it that just signed?
Nakai was fairly early on the process, and so was I know there was someone that has signed now. I want to say it's Stacey Gage. He was real early on, and he signed. But I don't know, 2 years. And we saw this with who was that one guy? He had a great name. It was like Precious or something like that. What was his name? He
Precious. Are you thinking about The Blind Side?
Well, there was a basketball guy named Precious Achua that.
He was on the Heat, right? Oh, okay, maybe I'm mixing. Who was that guy? He had a.
I know who you were talking about. He was a defensive lineman.
Yes, and he signed super early, and he ended up decommitting like whatever 6, 7 months later. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, for that class, they just came out. It was literally like 3 weeks ago that ESPN first came out with the top 100 or top 300 in the country for that class. So it's like this is the time of year. This is the time in that cycle where the top players and just recruiting in general really starts to ramp up for the class of 2026. Where even over the next month. I mean, Roger, you mentioned camps. I mean, over the next month, as school gets out and as these camps start to be attended, that's when this kid could blow up or kind of fade back in the background. You just never know.
Yeah, hey, when's your nephew signing with us?
What's that?
When's your nephew signing with us?
Hopefully it'll be a year from this July. We'll see, but we'll see though. That'll be when he I guess verbally commits. I guess.
And I'm gonna say absolutely peer pressure with that. That's only gonna keep going up.
I always remind him every offer that he gets that you never forget your first. And going into the 9th grade was his first D1 offer, and it was from UCF. So I'm hoping that and he just got number 29 today. I think 29 today.
29 offers.
Yeah, he just got an offer from Syracuse today. I believe that's number 29. It might be 26, but I'm starting to lose count. But yeah. Never forget your first, and he won't either. So we'll see. I always continue to give a little bit of a plug for UCF every time we talk about it.
Trey, didn't you have 35 coming out of high school?
No. No, I think I had like 14 or 15.
Oh wow, yeah. I'm not impressed, dude.
Man, I was an under-recruited guy that needed to be developed.
Listen, 14 to 15 was still pretty impressive. I had one good one when I came out of high school. So and that was playing for Army. at West Point. So that was my one good football offer that I had. And I bounced around a lot because of my dad being in the military, but it's an accomplishment to have that many offers, let alone as many as your nephew does. And he would be a great ad. He's been around UCF his whole life, and I'd love to root for him. So let's just put it that way.
Exactly.
If you're listening, sign, please. All right.
We'll be signing for a couple more years. He's in the class of 2026.
I don't care. He can sign now. Sign your letter of intent now. I don't care. We'll offer the scholarship. It's fine. It's fine.
Hey,
we've got a napkin that it can be a binding letter of intent. I don't care.
Yeah.
I got recruited for left out at many universities. It was
left
great.
out. Yeah, left out. That's a great position.
Wow. All right. On that note, let's talk about the people we left out, the people that we have in. Alan has a question on here. Obviously, Josh will not be on this team, but has UCF reloaded and built a team that is ready to win the Big 12 next season? All right, I'm going to step back from the mic and let you guys debate that. What do you guys think? Trey, why don't you start us off?
Man, I don't, to be honest, it's so many transfers. Like, it's hard. We had a few transfers like Mike Hughes when we played, and it was hard just kind of initiating him in because, granted, he came in very late, but it's still just, I'm big on the camaraderie with the team, fitting in at the right pieces, and he fit in at the perfect piece to fit in. He was a guy that wanted to learn, and it was still hard to make, integrate, watch film with him, teach him everything. So it's tough, and that's at cornerback. I can't even imagine. Again, we have a new quarterback. We're gonna have some new receivers, some young guys, maybe. I mean, everybody we're getting in, and we're gonna have it seems like a whole new back end for the defensive back group, which is, to me, obviously I'm biased, but that's the most important part on defense. Yeah, I mean that's a lot of new guys. But I mean, again, if KJ Jefferson's who he is, if Gus is what we think he can be, I think they have a shot. I think they should have a shot. I mean, we bring back a lot of talent. It's not like we're bringing back, all transfers. It's a lot of guys on defense. We're bringing back a lot of the coaching staff. We're bringing back new coaches. But Ted Roof, who, I think he's a great defensive coordinator, and he could be an improvement. So, to be honest, I don't know. I think if we're going to go there, we need to – that's the standard. Like, we can't be like, in my opinion, we need to win the Big 12, and then we go through a rough patch or we go through a little struggling and be like, we weren't really ready. I think we just – either we go all in or we just let it unfold. But as of right now, I think we have the guys, in my opinion. If KJ Jefferson comes to play, truthfully, if he can be anything what JRP is, stay healthy, we have a shot, I think. And I think as the defense goes,
you say that, but we've got like the guy that was going to be battling for the starting position next year at Miami and was a highly rated recruit as a backup too. So I if he's got enough time, I think that even, obviously preference would be KJ starts the entire season, but if something happens to KJ, I think we've got a quality. I think we upgraded at backup. And I will also say this, don't expect KJ to run JRP offense, right? KJ is going to hand the ball off more. I would not be surprised to see 2 back sets this year. Hint, hint. We just got Penny Boone that we brought in. So that's going to take some of the pressure off of the run game for him. When he played at Arkansas, last year wasn't as successful. Again, they had problems at coordinator, but the previous year, where he made his bones running was not designed run plays. They did have a few for him, but most of his run plays were when the pocket broke down. So that's where he can hurt you. He's gonna look to hand the ball off. He's gonna look to throw the ball, but he's got good instinct when there's a defender in the backfield and knows when to step up or step out. And, I
think it's going to be interesting because Gus's history, his best offense, his best seasons have came when his quarterback is hyper athletic or very mobile. I mean, you go back, Cam Newton won, then you have Nick Marshall the year, I think his first year as a head coach. Most of his best offensive seasons are when you have that third dynamic in the quarterback run game. I mean, and I think he's going to have to run to fully open it. I think he's a better passer than JRP just from watching him when he was at Arkansas. But I think to fully optimize the offense, the quarterback is going to have to run. I mean, I think that's what right now, just modern offense. I think you see that with Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, he's great from the pocket, but I mean, you look in the Super Bowl, he's running. When the game's on the line, he has to run. I mean, Josh, all the greats have to be able to extend the plays a little bit somehow with their feet. So I think
he has a lot of design plays. He has a lot of design plays for him, though. Everything's
and I think if you can just sprinkle it enough to where he's a viable threat, I think that's what's going to. And again, I think truthfully, as the offense goes, we're going to go. I think that's just football now. The better offenses tend to win out. But if we can have any consistency what we had last year offensively and just improvement defensively, I think we have a shot. I mean, there's going to be good teams in the conference. I'm not going to say that because Utah is always they're a well-coached team.
Well, and other teams upgraded too. We're not the only ones who upgraded.
I think we have the talent. I'll say that. We have the talent. I don't want to just jump and say, yeah, we're going to go because there's a lot that goes into winning conference. I mean, staying healthy is one of them. Continuity is one of them. I mean, it's a lot of things that go into it, especially in a conference that's not. We don't have a juggernaut, quote unquote, unanimous team that's just going to run, like, for example, like a Georgia in the SEC or Bama. Like, we don't have that in the Big 12. There's a lot more parity. Teams can win this conference because there's a lot more teams that are close to each other, and there are a lot of good teams. So I think it's going to be, who can stay healthy and who is clicking throughout the whole year. We can't have the ebbs and flows that we had last year on both sides of the ball. I think that's going to be key, is just being consistent and building on it. So we'll see. I'm interested. I mean, what do you guys think?
Ben?
So I think if I'm looking at, and it's hard to like really look at a roster right now because it just everything is just the transfer news is just so wild. But just as we've been talking about it, as I've been following some guy on Instagram called UCF Football Updates or anything like that, just trying to figure it out. In all seriousness, in all seriousness, it just seems like I can't think of a certain position where we lost like what felt like a lot and we haven't gained an improvement back. I mean, the main position I think is the biggest mainstay that we retained, I think, is running back, having RJ Harvey come back. And then just the additions that we've done on top of him coming back is just, kind of that insurance, not only insurance policy, but just the ability to, bring him back and keep him healthy for his last year in college football, to put on a showcase for the NFL and remain healthy, I think is a huge deal that's going to pay dividends. And then you look at the basically every skill position on offense. I think we got better.
O-line's questionable.
Yeah, I think the two question marks are O-line and maybe wide receiver, but we retained a great wide receiver. And we had two really good wide receivers, and we've gotten some good transfers and some good freshmen coming in there. So talent wise, we might even have a wash at wide receiver. Oh yeah, and then just on the other side of the ball, it's almost like we plugged holes by volume in certain aspects. We just talked about the secondary. Certainly, I mean, losing a guy like Jason Johnson, is a loss from the linebacker position, but I think we replaced him with a good collection of talent and experience there. And
a lot of experience.
Yeah, a lot of experience
on other P5 teams experience. Ethan Barr, number one. I'm excited to see what he's going to be able to do.
Yeah.
And by the way, we do have a former UCF linebacker that should be here next week that's going to give us a breakdown of the linebacking position.
Even better. Yeah, and it feels like we upgraded in athleticism at that position even. And then we've got some great development on the defensive line as well that I'm excited to see. Of course, some of those younger guys that that are ready to step up in their next year and really come forward. So I agree with you, Roger. I think the O-line, it might be one of the biggest like kind of question marks now that we've addressed some of the things on defense that were question marks maybe a month and a half ago. But I would say just at the core of the question, I think we have reloaded. I think we've upgraded at almost every position, or at least held to a wash at versus who we lost, whether it be graduation or the transfers. That's another thing. Like, I think it's a difference between, football this season, this upcoming season, and some other sports. I don't know, like some of the transfers out have been a lot of like, who is that guy? Or like, I can't quite recall that guy playing on the field, and it's no disrespect to them. I mean, I think our one of our toughest loss from a transfer standpoint was Nakai Martinez. But I mean, we've talked about, some of the intangibles that he could bring, but maybe physically he wasn't quite, to the par of some of the players that we brought in. So, I mean, I don't think that we hurt as far as transfers out. I don't think anything really hurt us that bad. And then the transfers in are all like very exciting for the most part. So I think we absolutely reloaded.
And it's interesting because I think you can look at it one of two ways. When you have, like we talked about earlier in the show, 24 DBs that's a lot of DBs.
Crazy.
I mean, I think the most we had when I was there was probably like we'd carry 5 safeties and 6 or 7 corners, because some of those guys they're tweeners. Like some guys can play corner and safety. Some guys can play like corner, nickel, safety, linebacker. Like there's tweener guys. But 24 is insane. Like that's so you can see like, okay, we're like you said, Ben, we're filling it with a lot of depth by volume, just having a lot of bodies and just see, hey, somebody's it's like playing the lotto. Like one of these has to hit. Yeah. One of these has got to be good. Or, it could be, we don't really like what we have. So we need to keep trying to find more guys to see. And that could be worrisome too. Like, I don't know. I think we're going to have to see, because again, we're bringing in a lot of talented guys, but we're also replacing or quote unquote bringing in more talented guys with already talented guys. So I don't know. We could be just trying to lift the floor of the, like, I have no idea, to be honest. It's because 24 is a lot of any position. That's a lot of bodies for one.
I'd say don't get excited about one single player of those 24, because maybe 10 of them could be gone before the fall.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, I think there's gonna be attrition, because once they get to camp, you have a better feel for the depth chart. The 2D, the guys that are really gonna play. And I think that's where guys are going to be like, okay, let me get out of here. And sadly, it's probably going to be the younger guys, because they have time. One of these guys with 1 year left, they don't really have time to leave in camp or at the end of camp. So I don't know. I think in that sense, if you're playing a lot of older guys, yes, we should be contending. We can't have a rebuilding year with, seniors, 50-year seniors and 40-year seniors and juniors. That, like, you guys, we should be competing at that sense. So it's going to be interesting. I think we'll know more once, the fall kind of we fill out the depth chart. And then, because like I said, if we see a bunch of juniors, seniors at the top of the depth chart, we should be competing. There's no excuses with that.
Yeah. I mean, I think on one token, it's like, we brought in, I think hands down, this is the most talent and depth that UCF has ever had. Like, I think what Gus Malzahn is doing is depth. That's what it is. When you see these outrageous numbers, just in general, I think we're just building depth because we've never been an opportunity to be able to build this type of depth in the past. Now that we're in the Big 12 and we're a better name and we're in one of the best conferences, we have that opportunity to do that. So I think just as fans, we're not used to that, because I don't even think we could do that in previous years. But, I think on one token, I see what you're saying, Trey, about, chemistry, but that's not something that worries me just in today's college football world. I mean, you look at, I just looked, out of the 10 teams that competed in the Power 5 conference championships last year, 5 of those teams had transfer quarterbacks. So they were clearly pretty quarterbacks, correct. Yeah. And that's not even, and there's plenty of others that did really well with, transfer quarterbacks that, weren't in the conference championship game, but still had really good records. So I think on one token, what Malzahn is doing is building depth like we've never seen before. But, on the same thing, on the same side of that, you don't want to get too excited about on paper rosters because, I look at this year in this cycle, we had 25 outgoing transfers, guys that have left UCF, and 12 out of those 25s were previous transfers that we were probably excited about at one time. So who's to say, that this is any different? But I think when you look, the difference to me feels way different than the last few years is that these are guys that played at their previous schools a lot, and they played at good schools. They played at Power 4 schools, a lot of them. And if they played in the group of 5, they were, at FCS, they're all Americans, or in group of 5, they're all conference. These are guys that are proven themselves on a D1 level, whether it's, Power 5, group of 5, or FCS, they've still proven themselves. So I think, once again, Trey, it kind of comes down to what you said is do we have the talent on paper and the roster to do it in a conference that's wide open with no powerhouses in it? Absolutely. But it's going to come down to Malzahn again. I think that's really what to me, I don't think there's any issues with the players unless they just, all these transfers ended up being busts. And then once again, that's a Malzahn issue because he has either a coaching issue or he has a talent evaluation issue. So to me, it comes down to Malzahn again. I think we've never had this much talent and depth on one roster. It's going to come down to what Malzahn can do with it, what Ted Roof can do with it as a new defensive coordinator, a new offensive coordinator. So I think it comes down to him. I think if we're looking back at the end of this year and are disappointed, I think something went wrong with the coaching, because at this point, I don't see too many teams in the Big 12 that are that close to us talent-wise, and there's probably only 3 or 4 that are on the same level or marginally
slightly
better.
Yeah, it's marginal. Yeah, it's not like we have a Texas or OU where they're just 5 stars in the conference. There's not that. It's everybody's pretty evil.
Not evil. I can tell you there are 4 Big 12 teams.
What?
There are 4 Big 12 teams that currently have quarterbacks that were quote unquote rated preseason higher than KJ Jefferson, right? So KJ Jefferson is going to be a great quarterback. He had an off year last year because the offense was in complete disarray. The offensive line was in complete disarray. At Arkansas, so it'll be really, really interesting to see what happens there. As for me, my expectations is we will compete for I think he's got a roster that could compete for a Big 12
right now
conference title. Offensively, we've upgraded a few pieces. We've got a great running back room, even better, I think, than what we've had in the past. And more importantly, we've got a quarterback who's consistently been really, really good on the offensive side of the ball. O-line to me is still going to be the big question mark. For years it was linebackers. I think this year it's going to be O-line, which is a big question mark in a conference like this. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
So you're saying on paper, roster wise, we should win or compete for a Big 12 championship?
100%.
I said compete, yes. I think we have the opportunity to win a Big 12 championship. I also think there's a lot more, you talked about parity. I think there's probably 4 or 5 schools, and TCU underachieved last year because of injuries. So I'll throw them in the mix too, that are better than expected. Arizona even is ranked pretty high.
TCU is going to have, if they don't have the depth, their high-end talent is extremely high-end talent. Like, they might not have, right now I think we have more depth than TCU, but they probably have the best quarterback going into this season in the conference. They probably have the best wide receiver and the best cornerback going in this conference. I think their skill players are high, very high level. But again, I think they're going to be the same thing as last year. Is their O-line good? Is their D-line good? Do they have the depth? Because once one of those guys goes out, they don't look like the same team. So I think it's going to be. Go ahead.
I think the big difference this year for us in a positive direction is our defense got upgraded across the board, from coordinator to linebacker position, DB, safety. We got an edge rusher that I think we got two really good edge rushers. One, Malachi, that stepped up last year and started his breakout, and then we just picked up another defensive end that's going to be good. And we've got a couple of guys in depth there. The D line stayed intact. We kept a lot of our big name guys. So I expect our interior linemen between John Walker,
Lee Hunter,
and Lee Hunter, I expect there to be a really, really solid front. And now
Ricky Barber too.
Ricky Barber.
Right,
yeah.
Ricky Barber too. But I think Lee Hunter, from everything that I've heard about him in the offseason, has really, really stepped up again. I think his daughter has been a driving force for him. I think he wants to make the NFL after next season. So I expect him to really be focused and put in the work. At the end of the day, what they were missing last year was the safeties and linebackers to be able to cover them during run, and run support, so that they could get a little wild. And then the other thing that they were missing was the complexity of the defense to be able to disguise their blitzes, so they could keep the offenses guessing. And I think the combination of those two things this year, solid run support, because that's where we got hurt last year, is when people were able to rush against us. And then if you can rush, it's just like, this, Trey, from the George O'Leary days. If you can rush effectively, you can control the clock. You give less chances for the opposing team to run it, to stay in or run away with it, and you're keeping games close. The other thing that I think is important is that we lost a lot of games in the last quarter. And again, there were a lot of close games that we lost last year. So if you have a good rushing attack, you can control. If you've got a lead going into the fourth quarter, you can control the fourth quarter, and you can control the position game. So
we have two 1,400 yard rushers on our team that combined for nearly 3,000 yards and 30 touchdowns last year. And that's ridiculous to have that on one team. That's like, basically we had two top 10 rushers in the country statistically.
Yeah, that's unheard of. I mean, the only team that's doing that is Ohio State, because they got the kid from Ole Miss. Like that, those are the only that's rare that you get.
Yeah, it might be the best
that kind of production on the same team.
Yeah.
So I think between that, being able to disguise the blitzes, boning up on the running game, I think that just by the upgrades that we made, even if the offense stays the same, doesn't even do any better than last year, I think the defense is what hurt us last year. And we concentrated on ball hawks. So a lot of the people that you were bringing in were considered ball hawks. They're guys, a lot of the transfers were guys that had a lot of turnovers from interceptions or fumble recoveries. So we're trying to give our offense more opportunities to score. I think in between that and being able to disguise the blitzes, I think we're going to be a lot more successful this year. And that's why I think we can compete for a championship. Josh Lazar, I'm going to let you talk. We've been taking up all the air in the room. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Listen, I'm going to be pretty simple. We started this off with the question.
All right, that was great. Oh.
Yeah, the first question the main question was, have we reloaded and built the team to win the Big 12 next year? And the answer is yes, we have. Whether we win it or not, I think is going to be a mix of all the things you're talking about. Truthfully, is KJ Jefferson healthy? Right? Can KJ Jefferson hit the intermediate routes, the short throws well? And that's a big deal, because I talked with a friend of mine from Little Rock and who's faithfully watched Arkansas last 4 years. And every single long bomb of a throw looks beautiful. And we've seen this at the spring game. We've seen this in practices for those who've been there. But the dink and dunk intermediate type of stuff, not as good. And if he gets that and he gets healthy, he'll be able to use his legs. He'll be able to throw. He'll be a significant asset. So you mix that with all the other things we're seeing, right? We have our wide receivers that are kind of moving on up and doing well. We have freshmen that are coming in. We have transfers that are interesting. The answer is yes. And I think, to Roger's point, yes to compete. But I think it's going to take and since we like that, and it's going to take a lot of both skill and luck to get into that position. We have the assets. We have a great team. I think we're like pocket 7-8 suited, seeing a flop with 2 of those cards on it and pushing all in. If you want some poker references, we're pushing all in, hoping
Hold on,
that
hold
everyone's
on,
going to
Alan. Is that a sport? Is that a sport you care about? I just want to clarify.
Poker?
Yes.
Yeah.
Chris Moneymaker?
That's a deep cut reference right there.
There you go. All right. So he cares about poker.
What about Latrell Sprewell? I mean, come on.
So we're going all in with a 2 pair, apparently. To
No, we're going off. We're going all in with suited and connected. Seeing on the flop, seeing 2
really
of those
good flush draw. Okay,
maybe some over pairs, but we're hoping for the turn of the river to hit. I think that's kind of where we're at.
Okay, see, I don't gamble,
Well,
so
we're
I have
all in.
no
We're trying
idea
to
what
win.
you
I'm
guys
not
are
going all in to lose.
Oh no.
I mean, and I think, different than maybe in years past. I think, Roger, you said this on a previous podcast that like Mackenzie Melton covered up a lot of deficiencies we had, but and I think you just said also that KJ was rated the 5th or 6th best quarterback in the conference by whatever media outlet. I think that's okay though. I think the talent is there where we don't need him to be the number 1 quarterback in the conference or the country. I think him being, if he's a top 4, top 5 quarterback, that's fine. I mean, you have guys like Shedeur Sanders and you have Jalen Daniels in this conference. I mean, that's okay if he's not, a superstar, because I think that's the whole point of what Malzahn has done. He's built.
But the other thing I'll say to that too is, and I'll add to that is, our schedule is more favorable this year, which is good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The bad part about it is we're playing all the new teams, so we haven't seen them before.
That's why I think it's kind of harder.
That's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out, especially with Utah, Arizona. Again, their coach left, a lot of their players left, but they still have a good core.
They have a great receiver too. He's probably the best receiver in the country.
And they arguably have the best quarterback in the conference, or second best.
So it'll, I think the Big 12 isn't getting any easier. Yes, we upgraded. The Big 12 upgraded. We didn't, when we think about the 4 corners, right? A lot of people were like, they aren't that great in football, but 2 of those 4 schools did really, really well, and 2 of them are ranked in the preseason top 25. So, and they're both going to be on our schedule. So it'll.
What do we consider what do we consider competing for? What would that look like?
They'd have to, I think, going into the Utah game, which is the last game of the season, or the game before that, I think it's Arizona State or West Virginia. I think they would have to have 6 conference wins at that point.
A shot to win the conference. A shot to go to the conference championship game.
Yeah, you need about 6 wins at that point, I think, because I think the winner will probably have 7 or 8, 7, probably 7.
You know what I would like to see this year? I would like to continue our streak of forcing coaches to retire or get fired, and I'd like to see West Virginia's coach fired. Sorry, West Virginia fans. He was on the hot seat last year, and he beat us. So I'd like to.
Napier's the better chance for that.
Napier would be another guy I'd like to see fired from our.
Napier? Oh yeah, that Gator game. Oh yeah.
He's got the best chance to get fired.
Yeah.
Because if
actually, don't sign me up for him getting fired. Sign me up for him losing and then staying on.
Forever. Lifetime extension.
Exactly.
Exactly. I would say this. One thing, Roger, to your point of the former Pac-12 teams, we got 3 out of the 4 at home, and it's Arizona State away. So I agree with the idea that we don't know what we're getting ourselves into because we haven't played them recently. We played a lot of those teams in the past, or actually a couple of those teams in the past. But I do think we get. It's a pretty advantageous schedule. I'd say maybe not at TCU, right? But otherwise, it's not that bad. It really isn't bad. So I'm thinking kind of where you guys are at. I'm thinking about 9 wins or so heading into the last couple of games. We'll probably have some fluky loss. Hopefully not, but we'll see what happens. I think competitive games at West Virginia and Utah, and we're in November and we're about to eat turkey and we're still excited about football and we have a chance. I think that's what that looks like.
Josh, you're not going to any of the football games this year, right?
I'm going to many of the football games.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Championship dreams are out the window. Okay.
Also, let me
All
clarify.
right, moving on.
I said Shadur Sanders and then play for TCU. I meant Colorado. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I know. We all knew who you meant. I mean,
Trust me,
the
everybody
last
knows what
name
you meant
is
when you say
Sanders.
that name.
Yeah.
Everyone
The
in
last
college
name is
football
Sanders.
knows that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Except for you,
All
Trey.
right. All right. So, Trey, you've been forgiven for your transgressions to the football
Yes.
deities. So, the next question Alan had on here was, and this is going to be interesting because Trey's got a player's purview. Your best road trip experiences and or stories. Think about like best game day atmosphere, best city, all of that kind of stuff. And I've got a little bit of different perspective because mine are not all tied to UCF. So, guys, let's go around the horn. We'll start with Ben, and then obviously we'll go with Josh last because we always do. But Trey, we'll go to you next to last because I'd like to get the players' perspective on that as well. So Ben, why don't you start us off?
Best away game experience with the UCF game. I haven't been fortunate enough to travel too much for away games. Now that being said, I did live in Memphis for 5.5 years, and I was at the game. I survived. Yes.
How many times was your car stolen, or at least on blocks?
0 times. 0 times.
Wow. Okay.
Memphis is a cool city, man. You guys, it's just I say what I say about Memphis is that it's like every other city where there's good areas and there's bad areas. The main difference in Memphis is that those areas are a lot closer together than other cities. So that's one of the things there. Anyways, I was at the game where I think it was 2012, maybe 2013, where we had to have the stand back hit to in that fumble hit to win the game essentially. And so I was at that game. That was an awesome experience.
Did you get shot on the way out?
And then speaking of cities that are not really super safe, I traveled down to New Orleans when I lived in Memphis. My wife and I traveled down to New Orleans, met up with a bunch of our friends that we used to tailgate with at UCF, and had a great weekend watching UCF Tulane. It wasn't great result of the game because I think it was the 2015 season.
I was at that game.
Yeah, it was a 2015 season that we did that. But Tulane Stadium is actually pretty cool. It's pretty.
Was that the new stadium? Did they have the new stadium then?
Yeah, I think it was a relatively, first year, second year. I'm not exactly sure how new it was.
You said 2015?
Yeah, 2015. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was on campus.
Yeah.
What's that?
Trey was there.
Yeah, I think that was It was new. It was a few years.
Yeah, it was definitely new, and that stadium itself is actually, I mean, for a smaller stadium, it's actually really nice, and it was cool.
Yeah, the dollar beers underneath in the concourse were great when I was at the championship game against Tulane that we ended up losing. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So those are a couple there, and then just other big time, I guess, college football experiences. I have seen a game at Clemson, FSU Clemson game when Clemson had like literally all of those like Hall of Fame receivers on the same team, like Sammy Watkins and Demetrius Hopkins, and like they were all on the same team that year. DeAndre Hopkins, thank you.
I was wondering where I was like Demetrius.
Yeah, sorry, DeAndre Hopkins. And so it was FSU at Clemson that year when they had those. And the one thing I remember about that game, besides Clemson fans totally not living up to their like, oh, we're great fans hype, because they were horrible fans. Clemson fans were garbage. So
wow,
at that time. But besides that, the older fans were great, but of course the students and anybody below 30 were garbage. But the one thing I do remember of that game is the amount of pass interference penalties that FSU would get because they would basically just hold those guys in order to save a touchdown. They'd rather take a 15-yard penalty back in the day. So those are my two big ones there.
All right. Alan, what about you?
Yeah, I think I've had a couple of non-UCF games I've been to, and one that was, just atmosphere and just awesome stadium and really cool city. I loved Michigan. I didn't actually go to the UCF Michigan game. I went to Michigan, Nebraska in Frost's first year at Nebraska. So kind of cool to see him, but also, that stadium.
Trey was there for that one too.
Yeah, I was there to see you, Trey. I knew we were gonna have a podcast together one day, so I wanted to come support. But that was an awesome stadium, really cool. And I thought the city, I thought that was going to be like purely like a college town, but it was actually a really like nice city, and it wasn't like dumpy, or it was very, very nice college, or very, very nice just city in general. So I enjoyed that. But as far as UCF goes, I always try to make it so I go to a game with just a cool college atmosphere. I'm there not really for the quote unquote like city, but just the actual college atmosphere. I want to go to like historic college towns, but UCF being in the AAC, most of the games were in big metropolitan areas, whatever, Cincinnati, Houston, Tampa, whatever the case may be. So I've gone a couple non-conference, but I actually think in conference, the coolest one was Memphis. Yeah. I went to the Mackenzie Melton rain game where we went bone and then he flipped over. That was just an awesome game. And I thought the Memphis stadium was pretty cool. And then also
Liberty Bowl.
The Liberty Bowl, and the older fans were super, super nice. And, I like that experience. And then out of conference, I was pretty underwhelmed by Pittsburgh. I've been to quite a few. That was pretty underwhelming. I went to Oklahoma last year. I thought that was super underwhelming. I would say out of conference, probably the best was Maryland and College Park. They had
Hold on, what? I went to that game. How was that? That was terrible.
The tailgating wasn't cool, but I don't know. I thought their stadium, their like campus was beautiful. The stadium was really nice.
They had a cow pasture in the middle of the in the middle of the campus. Like I was there for that one too, because we actually broadcast Nightline, the predecessor for this podcast. We broadcasted from the parking lot there. Actually, after the game. So that's surprising because, I totally went completely opposite.
Right.
My experiences there, because there wasn't a whole lot of tailgating that I saw. And I walked around quite a bit.
There's a big lot that was very close to the basketball stadium, because I know they're more of a basketball program. So I went to make sure I actually went into the basketball stadium, which was really cool. And we were tailgating there. There was a lot of people over there.
Yeah, I don't know. I just had a different experience there. And then, we went to the game, and it was hot.
Yeah,
the stadium, it was really hot. And the stadium was, I know they've upgraded since, but the stadium was not anything to write home about at all. It was all bleacher seating. We talk about our stadium with the but it was all bleacher seating. The video boards weren't upgraded. They were old, smaller video boards. I actually have a picture on my mantle in here that Brandon Helwig took from there. I was there with another Knight fan of my son and I there when we went. The best part of that game for me, honestly, was driving down there because I allegedly went about 120 miles an hour driving down there, and that was a lot of fun. Allegedly in my Charger when I had my Challenger back then. I had my Scat Pack Challenger. So my son and I had a lot of fun in that car. But yeah, allegedly I was driving that fast. So it was a pretty quick trip because I was living up there at the time. So the other part was just the end of the game because we were able to go down to behind. We were sitting behind.
All the players were giving us high fives and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I wish they'd bring that tradition back. They kind of killed it after COVID. It was always good because all the players came out and hung out and made sure to get selfies with everybody and whatever. People were hyped during the game. The players were hyped. They had a really good quarterback that went down. You guys injured him, Trey. I don't remember
Yeah,
Pretty
I remember.
quick back. I don't remember what his name was.
They actually their first string quarterback, because we played them I think the third game of the season. Their first string quarterback got hurt, and he was the backup. Then he got hurt, and I think they went for their third string the rest of the year.
They had a third. I'll never forget. Yeah, they went down to the third, and then we lost Juwan Hamilton in that game, the running back in that game.
And we played DJ Moore, like who plays for the Bears now. He was a stud, but
yeah.
Go ahead, Alan.
I was gonna say the final one. Roger, you like this? I actually really enjoyed Cincinnati. I thought, I know that's like not a college town, but I liked the kind of tailgate. It was just like all bars that was, I guess, just like downtown where their campus was. And
a lot of breweries in Cincinnati.
What was that?
A lot of breweries in Cincinnati.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite road trips, not just from the game days, or just like beforehand going to the breweries, like you're saying, and obviously trying Skyline Chili and all that. But
did you try Gold Star too?
I didn't know. We didn't. Like, no one told us about that till afterwards. I was kind of pissed. There's a Skyline Chili, and there was one in Fort Lauderdale for a while. So I was like, all right, this is not that unique. But it was also the year that they were undefeated and made the playoffs. So their fans were like, that year at least reminded me of our fans. Like when we were on our run, it was just, they were so hyped, and they had a fairly big stadium. I was surprised that it looked like it definitely seemed bigger than ours. And I thought, I was like 4 rows up and with a little pocket of UCF fans, and their fans were rowdy. Obviously ended up being a blowout. They killed us, but that was still, to this day, that was probably, that and Memphis were probably my 2 favorite combined. And then I've been to Tulane. New Orleans is New Orleans, but that's always fun. But I would say Cincy and Memphis were probably my 2 favorite experiences.
Yeah, Cincy, their stadium is interesting because it's one of the oldest stadium, I think, or the oldest stadium. I can't remember, continuously used stadium in upper level Division I football, and they redid it. It's smaller as far as seating capacity as ours, but they've got that big gray architectural building thing that's attached, because it's like literally the campus is not like ours where they've got a bunch of space, so it's like one right on top of the other, and it's built into the ground. So it's interesting experience. If you guys go to Cincinnati to a game, make sure you're checking out Rheingeist Brewery. That's an awesome brewery, and that's from someone who is his side. My dad's side of the family's from there, so I'm up there quite a bit. Actually, I'll be back up there in August. And my cousin, actually, she works for the athletic department at the University of Cincinnati. So there's always a lot of banter, we'll call it nicely, when it comes to the Cincinnati UCF game. All right. Trey, from a player's perspective.
I mean, we don't get to enjoy all of the outside stuff that you guys do. I think probably just from the stadium and just the environment. Obviously, the Peach Bowl was one that was more neutral site. But I think my favorite at UCF was when we played at Navy. To me, that was the most. Yeah. As far as an environment, it was the coolest environment. I've told Roger this a few times. Just seeing all the guys in their military gear, but they're dressed in their Navy stuff. But I mean, they're acting just like any other college student would. Like, they're rowdy, they're hyped, they're screaming, but they're wearing it, so it looks weird, but again, it's just awesome. And then it was packed to the ground. I remember, I think that's when AK scored a long run and he slipped in front of the GOAT, and you can literally see the Navy guys yelling at AK. Like, they're into it. It's not like they're just, military style guys just sitting there emotionless. No, those guys are rowdy. But then after the games, obviously they're like, good game. Like, they're a lot of sportsmanship.
And they come and sing your alma mater afterwards too, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so I think that was pretty cool. And then throughout the stadium, I don't know if people saw, they have the guys that served in the military that played on the football team, or I guess high-ranking guys. They have pictures of them up. So it was, that was really cool to see, just that environment. Obviously, to me, what makes the environments fun are when the teams are both good and you go into the game, because everybody has.
You didn't have any good ones in Nebraska.
Well, see, so here's the thing about Nebraska. A lot of those rivalries they're deeper than even the players. At UCF, we're all younger. We're a younger fan base, and this is where I kind of saw the difference. Every away game in the Big Ten is a rivalry. Like, they hate each other. It doesn't matter what the records are. They show up for those games and they hate each other. Like, I point to when we played Michigan at UCF, that environment was completely different than when we played when Nebraska played Michigan. Like, it's different with those. I think even going to Ohio State, completely different environment, because those games, it matters to both of them. Like, it matters to them for everything. Versus, and I think that's where, like, I was just thinking, 30 to 50 years from now, we might not even be here. I think we're going to get that with UCF. I wish we could
put that on me, Ricky Bobby. Don't put that bad juju on me.
Well, I've already said I'm living till 100, so I'll be here. But
listen, I'll be 30 years from now. I'll be 73. So I'm definitely hoping to make that 50s kind of pushing it. I'll be like 93. So if I'm still podcasting at that point, forgive me if I have to take a break.
So I think those were probably my two favorite. Obviously, like Alan said, New Orleans is always fun. When we went to Dallas for SMU, that was fun, obviously.
Which one?
SMU 2017. Yeah. That one was fun because even that game was fun going down, playing Cortland Sutton and all them.
They had a good team that year, didn't they?
Yeah, they had Cortland Sutton. And most of those games were fun because
that was a close game.
What, you were at that one?
No, I said I went to SMU the same year that the Cincinnati year when they blew us out by like 4 touchdowns. So I've been to SMU, which was they're very tiny though.
I'll tell you which one was not fun to go to at SMU was the one where the Cardiac Knights were playing there in 2013.
That was a snow game. That was crazy snow.
Oh my God, it was freezing.
Yeah,
that was it Josh Robinson? That was Houston. Was that Houston? What was that? There was a play at the very end, defensive play.
That was Brandon Alexander. I remember that.
Brandon Alexander. Yeah,
that was Houston.
Yeah,
because those games are always whenever those, and like I think 2016 when we went to Houston, that was the year that Houston was like, oh, they're gonna make because I think they beat Lamar Jackson early in the year. They beat Baker Mayfield and them. Like those environments are always fun because the fans are in it. It's from my players. I'm sure, like you guys are saying, you guys are going and what's the best tailgating spot? That's what makes it fun, which I get that now as a fan. Like, man, who cares about all this? Like, where's the best tailgating spots and what's having the most fun before the games? But, yeah, those are probably my top ones. Were Navy for sure, and then SMU was up there. And, yeah, those are my top 2.
Josh, what about you?
So I'm going to bifurcate this into kind of younger Josh.
Oh!
Older Josh. So younger Josh had the fun of being with Adrian. I think Jimmy Skiles was there too. Maybe one other person, 4 of us or maybe 6 of us, Rowdy Knights, in a bus full of fraternities and sororities, going up to Penn State, staying in a really crappy hotel and watching us get our butts handed to us, where Brandon Marshall, I think, had an interception. So when he was on the other side of the ball, so that was fun. I also, other bad experiences include anyone who ever went to the UF game where we were blown out 42-0. That was, I wish I had the Rizz to be in Happy Valley with sorority girls. 0.
Pause. What?
Yeah, listen, that's the 20 Josh. No, a story for outside of the pod offline. So 42-0 at UF was horrible. Also, I think in about 2004 or 2005, I drove up to South Carolina to that game. I parked and I walked through a bunch of fun people in the SEC calling me all sorts of names.
Hold on, wasn't that the pass interference game?
Yeah,
the fancy pass interference game.
Yeah. So there's still haven't beat South Carolina yet. So that was most of my bad experiences. I had some other ones too. Better experiences when I get older. Some of the best games I've been to away, obviously the Peach Bowl. I think all 30,000 of us who were there were there. Fun fact, that's actually when I found out my wife was possibly pregnant. So
you're welcome.
Yeah, back applause.
The
No,
peach ball led to the peach bowl.
Trey, that was awesome.
no, she refused
You're
to drink
welcome.
any alcohol
You're
during
welcome.
the Peach Bowl, and I was wondering why. So Peach Bowl was great. Fiesta Bowl #1 with Blake Bortles. Like, imagine going into that game, flying out to Arizona, having everyone say you're going to have your, heads crammed in, and dominating the entire game. Like, I couldn't believe
dude,
things were
do you-
happening.
And let me tell you, how many every Baylor fan I saw in the offseason with Baylor gear on, they lowered their heads. It was amazing.
So I flew in. We had New Year's Eve, and that game was at In-N-Out. It was 2014 then, right? We had New Year's Eve was at In-N-Out Burger with my wife and I and a friend. We tailgated the next day, and this was the first day of a 4 or 5 day trip. The first day was that game. Then we went to Sedona. Then we walked around Phoenix, and we had only UCF gear. If we didn't win that game, there'd be a problem. Bought more UCF gear there, and we saw Baylor fans everywhere, everywhere. And oh my, it was wonderful. Also wonderful, except for the first half, was going to Ireland. So that was the next game. Like, if you did both of those games, you went to Phoenix, and then your next football game was in Dublin, Ireland. So we did both of those games. Unfortunately, that first half was but there's many others, but those are just some of the ones that pop off the top of my head. But I'll tell you that 18-hour bus to Penn State was not a fun time. That was broke, Josh, but it was a free ticket and trip to Penn State. So
all right, there you go. Josh's Tales from Not So Happy Valley. That's what we're gonna call that.
That's true.
So, for me, I'm going to echo a couple of things. One, actual game, Navy was, I've got a lot of military ties. So for me, went to the Naval Museum that's there on campus while we were there. The vibe, the feeling when you're in the stadium, there's just so much respect. You're surrounded by veterans. All the seats have a name on them, from midshipmen who either served or were season ticket holders. We actually bought our tickets off of a season ticket holder. The people that were surrounding you were military, classy, retired guys, and just absolutely amazing. Like, you just felt like you needed to thank them for their service. And the flyover, and then you had the parachutists, and I don't even know, Trey, if you guys were on the field to be able to see that, but just the American flag coming in, and then the guy landing, with a giant American flag, was amazing. The tailgating actually was pretty good. We tailgated off-site. There were a few, let's just say I met some people that you would know on the Heartbeat that were doing really, really well. I brought my big flag. We had a big pole, and we put it up on the big pole and put the UCF flag out there. And then, it just, Annapolis is a great place. If you don't know, for restaurants and things like that, it's a beautiful area. You've got sailing, you've got a bunch of stuff going on down there. But just during the game, just that feeling, it's the only game that I have noticed where, and myself included, where UCF fans did not yell out Knights during the national anthem out of respect for Navy. And you look around, and they talk about, they have on the top of the stadium all the major battles that Navy and Marine Corps were in. And it's just different. It just really is. As an American, if you haven't had a chance to do that, no matter what the outcome was, go to a game at Navy. Just same way with West Point. If you've never been to West Point, go to West Point. Especially if you can catch an Army Navy game, that's amazing. Now, for the college football side of it, I did go to New Orleans for the championship game. That was actually fun. We had the people there were absolutely probably the nicest opposing fan base. One, they were. It was kind of funny because they had done so poorly for so long that they were just kind of thankful to be there, kind of thing. They were excited about that, right? But it's a small. There's a tailgating green that they have that's there, and we actually met a couple of guys that were fans for 30 years, and they invited us over to their tailgate for like legit food. If you're talking about tailgate food from opposing fan bases,
Ooh.
one guy owned a restaurant. That was the best. We had redfish, we had true gumbo, we had all this stuff, and they would give it. And the guys actually challenged us to a game of I can't remember the name of the game right now. The beanbags and the cornhole.
Cornhole.
And so Florida guys, Florida man is known for cornhole. So they played us, and obviously we defeated them quite handedly. So I raised the flag for us. And although we didn't win that day, we won the cornhole game for UCF. Another atmosphere that I would say is pretty awesome. Auburn. I've been around Auburn. Went to Toomer's Corner, saw the toilet paper thing, like all that kind of stuff. It's a pretty awesome experience. The only thing that I will say bad about Auburn is, for some reason, I don't know why, they've got a little bridge that goes over to the stadium on one side, and the stadium, number one, is massive. You don't realize how big these stadiums are. Even Maryland Stadium looks smaller in comparison because it was below ground. And I've been to Clemson Stadium. I've been to a bunch of different places. But the one thing I will say is when you're walking out, it smelled like pee. So outside of that, it was a great experience. The town's awesome. People really get into it. It spills, like Auburn is part of downtown area. So like everybody spills into the streets in downtown Auburn after the game. And that's a pretty cool experience as well. All right. So I think we've talked enough about that, but it kind of reinforces what I was saying last week, Josh, when we were talking about who we added to the schedule and why you want to go to certain areas. And for me, I want to go to cool college experiences and experience that. I'm going to do a couple of quick notes. We don't really have time to talk about it. Maybe we'll talk about it next week. This week, the UNC Board of Trustees met. There's the ongoing saga that we've kind of been updating you guys about FSU and Clemson wanting to leave. We found out a little bit more about that. Tampa Bay Times actually has a pretty good running total if you want to follow along with the running timeline on all the updates on the legal stuff going on there. But UNC basically roasted the ACC, so they're clearly setting themselves up to leave as well. And they were very candid about the fact that they're nervous about the difference in pay that's happening with the quote unquote Power 2. And that rolls right into some things that are going on. Trey's going to get paid. You heard me talk about that earlier. There's a $2.9 billion lawsuit that's out on the table right now that the NCAA and the conferences are looking at for a settlement. And basically, it would allow the teams or the schools to have all the sports have scholarships, right? So basically, baseball, instead of just having 11 scholarships, would have 32 full scholarships. There would be payment. And on average, it would be about $20 million per school that it would cost for the next 30 years to pay this. Plus, the NCAA is going to pick up the tab, but there would be $2 million a year in back damages, and $10 million in additional scholarship money, basically per Power 5 school. So I think UCF, I had this conversation on the College Huddle. As you guys know, we're part of the College Huddle that I brought this up. Basically, UCF is going to be losing about $20 million a year of that $50 million a year that we're going to be making. So we would net about $30 million a year. So that stinks. But at the same time, I think we're better positioned than most because we don't overpay. and we've kind of done well with what we've had. UNC and the Board of Trustees were talking that they're going to have a $17 million deficit going forward and about $100 million that they're going to have to pay. So that's part of the reason they're looking out. Their quote was pretty damaging, where they basically said,
could you explain it for the simpleton? What's going on? Because I'm one of those people. I don't like. I kind of know, but
you're a simpleton or you're going to get paid. Which one are we talking about here?
Any money's good money for me, so I don't care. I meant like how is UNC like? How would they be in a deficit $100 million or paying $100 million?
So basically, if this is on the table right now, and it looks like they're going to adopt it. They have until the end of May. I can't remember the exact date. May 23rd is the deadline for them to accept the agreement. But basically, it's going to be $20 million per school in additional costs that come out of this, right? Between scholarships,
each school has to pay.
Right, between scholarships and what they're going to have to pay for this part, plus the back damages and everything else. And so, unlike other schools who have been borrowing for the arms race as far as facilities and things like that, UCF has been very smart with their money. And so they have, capital costs that are out there for capital projects that they put out there that they're paying debt service on. So these additional costs, which weren't anticipated, are going to put them at about a $17 million deficit. Remember, most schools spend what they get in the athletic departments so that they can show a net. The theory has always been, hey, you want to show a net zero on that so that people can't say, hey, you're making the money off the back of athletes. So a lot of people have taken a lot of bonds out to build facilities and things like that. And now this is coming back to catch them because it's $20 million less than they were expecting. So what they actually said, and this is from the Board of Trustees, the ACC is not acting as if it is representing the best interests of member schools. That's pretty damning. With a statement like that, that tells me that they're not going to be in the ACC for much longer. UNC has been rumored for a long time. Yeah, Josh mentioned this, UCLA's problem. They just redid their stadium and they have a huge debt service to pay on that.
Yeah, like 9 figures. It's like $200 million or something like that.
Yeah, so same thing that the Cows are doing with their stadium, right? So
allegedly.
Allegedly. So, at the end of the day, this is going to create a lot of problems. So the settlement, we'll hear more on May 23rd. The settlement terms would go into effect in 2025, which means people would start paying that in 2025. And scholarships would go up. There's actually talk of a cap and bringing it back down to 85 scholarships. It was at 85 scholarships, then it went up. Now it's on 120. They're talking about bringing it back down to 85 scholarships for football to help offset the cost for the scholarships for the other
120 sports. Football scholarships now?
Yes, that up to.
Holy smokes.
So, that's how you can have 95 DBs on the team. But but there is a cap per year, right? So there's a yearly cap, but like total is 120.
Yearly cap is 1,000. You can have 1,000 players.
No.
As long as
Trey's eyes just got really big. But Josh did look this up
in one school.
According to the LA Times, the athletic department accrued $102.8 million in debt for UCLA in the last 3 fiscal years. That's as of
2022. And it's even like, I think 2023 was something like $64 million. They made a $28 million. Never mind. The debt was $28 million in 2022. Okay, so that's after all this stuff. Here's the good part for us, and kind of to the point Roger was going with. So we've been relatively fiscally responsible because we've had to be, right? The stadium you played in was not a $300 million concrete stadium, nor
it wasn't.
Yeah. And when we were there in 2007, it would have been.
We wouldn't have a bounce house if it was.
Yeah, I know. And we would have liked to have water fountains on the first day of the stadium, right?
Oh, come on. What are you, a Cows fan? What are you, a Cows fan? Bring me the water station.
There. I wanted water. One of my good friends couldn't get to the game.
Y'all couldn't get water at the stadium.
This is like
Was
a
it
huge
stadium
controversy.
open? There
Yeah.
wasn't enough water.
Didn't work.
There
It was a
wasn't
No,
enough water.
controversy, man.
Trey, people passed out at that game. Like, midday football. Like,
You're
UCF
back
got in
down in
trouble when it was
2017.
laughing at. They're
Oh
so
my
inconsiderate.
They didn't. What
on the
kind of
field,
stadium
you had
doesn't have
water.
water fountains in it? Like
They
they
did.
immediately changed
Wait,
it by
no.
game.
Let
By
me
game
just
two.
there were
That-
no water stadiums in the bounce house.
No
There was
water
one.
fountains.
That was my very first ever game at
And they
UCF
ran out
as a
of water.
freshman. Not only they ran out of water, they didn't have any water fountains. It was against Texas. It was like 99 degrees out, and it was a
And
huge
it
concert. It was in
rained.
the paper. It was. I bet you could find a news article on it. It was like
Oh,
People
I'll,
were passing out.
I'll do that for you. So,
Dude,
so
They
here's the
ran out
thing.
of water in the
Dude, people were passing. That's the reason UCF did those
Heat
water
exhaustion.
buffaloes, because like
Yeah.
even the 2017 season when you were playing, there wasn't enough water in the stadium, so they allowed you
There's
to start
fountains
bringing
there,
your
Roger.
no. I'm
There's
serious.
fountains.
They allowed you to bring your your Turvis cups or whatever in, and we did it. And as long as it was empty when you brought it in, they had these
Right.
giant cold water. But those were great, by the way. We'd go fill up our water and go back to our seat. We did that. And here's the crazy thing: the pit game when they were playing at home, like when we were playing them at home, the lady behind us, whoever the season ticket holder was, sold their tickets, right? And so there was a pit family behind us, and there's like this 60-some-year-old lady that was behind us, and so it was like midway through. Or it wasn't midway. It was like in between the first quarter and second quarter. It was blazing hot. You know how Florida sun is. And the stadium, with it being aluminum at that time, we weren't in. I don't think we were in the black and gold cabana at that time. So we had metal seats. So it makes it even hotter in the stadium.
Like a walk.
So Kennedy and I, my daughter, we went to go get water from one of those water buffaloes. We came back. And they told us the lady got taken out. She had passed out from the heat and had heat stroke. And the cops had to come and take her out of the stadium. And she went on an ambulance and all that other stuff.
This is crazy.
Well,
I've never
that's
heard
a
this in my
new
life.
advantage for us. Noon games are an advantage for us.
Trey education. So I meant this all to say, not to get into 2007 fun for people. I meant
And UConn was worse that year.
Oh God. There you go.
All right, Nobra coming up with the production skills. All right,
nice. Yeah.
See, he got his power up. He got his power up with his burrito. If you guys were watching earlier, I got
pub sub, man. Show some respect, Roger. It was a pub sub.
That was
not a burrito. Show some respect.
All right, hold on. We got to bring Nobra up. Nobra, was that a burrito or was it a pub sub?
Pub sub. I said it during the
Said
intro.
it was a pub sub.
Really?
Yeah, I said it during the intro. Yeah, I think everything that I've eaten on this pod that you've seen me eating, you've gotten wrong.
Burrito? Are you using the wrap style pub sub?
No, it was bread, dude.
I'm gonna watch that back. I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
So this was all honestly. This is all to say UCF has been really within reason fiscally responsible because we've had to be. We've never had the money.
Well, I mean, if we're depriving people of water, I'm sure we are.
But
It was one game, Trey.
They fixed it pretty quickly.
The next week. They fixed it the next week.
Yeah, the indoor practice facility was done in 2005 on $1 million or $2 million, and that was all donated. So
and Trey knows this. We didn't have AC. There was no AC in that summer either.
Yeah, but true because we couldn't afford AC. So here's the reality: we do less with more. We do. No, we do more with less. Jesus.
Oh, come on, Josh.
You can be that one. Nah, you got to drop that in Instagram. We absolutely do more with less.
He's had a couple citronattis while we're talking. That's what's happening.
Man, we definitely do more with less. We've done it since Ben Stout was in that garage of a basketball facility, and Troy is not really a state, right? We've been doing this for decades, maybe since St. Leo. if you've been in the SEC for 25 years, 30 years, 100 if you were Tulane, but whatever happened to them. They
weren't in it for 100 years. They were only there till the 60s.
I know, but they have 3 championships.
Georgia Tech did too, by the way.
I know. So here's the thing. I think out of all of the people that are in the shuffle, like Oregon State is going to lose a lot of money, and they probably don't know what to do.
Bro, Oregon State Stadium, before all this happened, they tore down half of the stadium. Right before the Pac-12 disintegrated.
Yeah, these are the things we don't have to worry about. Now, do we need a new stadium in probably 20, 25 years? Sure, but we will probably figure it out. And all you students that are graduating now in your 40s, you're going to be high rolling with lots of money. You're going to pay for it. So
bro.
That's the reality. So I think we're in a good position if we can keep up with whatever the end results are of all of these lawsuits. I'm not saying we're going to be flush with money like the SEC or the Big Ten, but we'll be able to do more with what we have. We've always had to do that.
Yeah, so
less with more, right?
We're going to do less and more.
Even with this, even taking this haircut, right? Right now, we're only getting $18 million, and we're paying the AAC back for our exit, right? So we will be getting right after next season, next athletic season, we'll be getting full shares. So here's the thing. Even with taking a $20 million haircut, we'll still be getting 3 times what we got in our best years in the AAC. So we're still going to be ahead because we had to do more with less, Josh, in the AAC for so long. So that was, and to your point, Josh, and my pointing back to my point, Josh's point pointing back to my point. We are in a better position than most of these power schools. And it's going to be really interesting because schools like Stanford, right? And this is where I think, we're talking about the future of the ACC and their power status. Stanford has said that if you start paying players, and that's essentially what we're going to do now, right? They're out. So I think you're going to see a separation in the ACC, and I think you'll see some of those leftover schools that don't make it into the Big Ten and the SEC come into the Big 12 because of that.
So you think Miami will be in the Big 12?
I think that Miami will not make it into the Big Ten. I don't think they have. I don't think they have the success because they've not done well in the ACC. I don't think they have the fan base. Their fan base has not showed up. I think they will be in the Big 12. I think Louisville will be in the Big 12. They originally were, West Virginia was kind of picked over them on the last go round of realignment when the Big 12 was expanding. So I think Louisville will be there. That gives a rivalry for Cincinnati and a big rivalry with West Virginia that goes way back. I do think that.
I think they play like a UM every year or somebody in Florida every year.
Oh, it'd be great for the Big Four. Look what it did for FSU and UM back when they were competitive and battling against each other. Yeah. I would love that for UCF. We beat them in the plate game, so we know that we're, as Ben said a couple of weeks ago, they're our feeder school now for talent.
Let me counterpoint this for 1 second. Miami, real quick, Miami to the Big Ten makes a lot of sense.
No,
everyone in that conference needs someone they can regularly beat all the time. Miami fits the bill.
I thought they had Nebraska.
They have them too, but you need more than one.
Big Ten has a lot of bad schools.
Maryland will be like Miami. Will be like
Maryland.
Too.
Well, Rutgers only got in because of that time to carry.
Purdue, Illinois, Indiana.
Yeah, the Purdue, Illinois, and Indiana were founding members. So
Northwestern, they all suck.
Ohio State, Michigan, Wisconsin, and a few others need more people to beat beat up in football so they can make their schedules and their win column
I,
look a
I
little
don't.
better.
I
Miami
don't.
did.
I don't see a small private school going to the Big Ten. I just don't see it.
I'd love to have them in the
mean,
Big 12.
They can't even get a. They don't have an on-campus stadium. They don't. They have an 80-yard indoor practice facility because they can't do a full 100-yard one because it's so cramped on campus. So I don't see that happening. I do think they'd be a Big 12 ad. I think it would be good for us for travel. They have a good basketball program lately. Their baseball program has been good consistently. And I think that, obviously the built-in rivalry with UCF. And it's kind of funny because the Cows back in the Big East days they said their stated goal was to have a rivalry with Miami. And Miami was like, nah, bro. So if they end up in the Big 12 and we have a rivalry with Miami, that would just be the icing on the cake. I mean, it would be amazing as UCF fan.
I agree there.
All right. So that went a little longer than what I expected. Let's go ahead and move on to UCF basketball. We do have some hoops news. Ben, I'm going to let you take this away.
All right, great. You and Josh did a great job of talking about. Am I still on mute?
No, you sound super excited. You're like, okay, great.
Yeah, this is the basketball talk with Ben.
Hey guys, you guys ready to talk some hoops? All right. So you guys did a good job last week, Jordan, my goodness, Josh and Roger.
Michael Jordan is now on the podcast.
Yeah. So we did talking about the transfers that we have gotten so far.
Sorry, Ben. Like, no.
Sorry, podcast listeners. You get that was a great drop on YouTube.
Go ahead, Ben. I'm so sorry.
A transfer that we did get this week since we last recorded was a transfer shooting guard or combo guard from UTSA, Jordan Ivy Curry, which is the reason why I said the name Jordan earlier. So that is our fifth transfer of this class. Jordan Ivy Curry is a really, a smooth guard. I think he has 1 year of eligibility left. I'm not quite sure. But he averaged a little over 17 points per game last year. Over 5 rebounds. He's not the biggest guy. He's 6'3", 175 pounds, but he definitely has no problem mixing it up in the paint, crashing the board. So 5.5 rebounds. Just for context, our leading rebounder was Diallo last year, and he averaged about 5.6 rebounds a game. So this is another transfer guard that is averaging over 5 rebounds a game. So I think that's a positive thing. Also, just offensively, he shot 39% from the 3-point line last year. Some of his strengths that I've seen, just some of the longer highlight reels that I've looked at with Jordan Ivy Curry, is he plays with really good pace with the basketball. He's kind of very efficient with how he moves around the court. He uses screens really well. He uses the space on the court really well. He's a solid 3-point shooter, as I mentioned, but he's particularly good from the deep three. He had about 10 threes from really long distance last year. So he's somebody that is not afraid to shoot it from deep and knock it down. Like I said, he's not the biggest guy, but certainly can mix it up. He's comfortable in both guard spots. He can play with the ball in his hand and really move around the court really well. He's a pretty efficient passer, but also has no problem with playing off the ball in space, whether he's kind of coming off off ball screen for an open three. He's pretty good with catch and shooting, but he's also good at moving without the ball as far as backdoor cuts for layups or just trying to get an open space for a mid-range jump shot. So he's an impressive player, at least as far as some of his tape from his UTSA days. And so at 17 points per game and a little over 5 rebounds from a guard spot, we're seems to be getting another very efficient scorer, somebody who is not afraid to mix it up, take on the load offensively. And so, I mean, I think that bodes well for us. We do seem to have been attracting a lot of, kind of prolific offensive scorers in this transfer class. And so hoping that bodes well for, not only these players being able to be, kind of buy into the overall defensive scheme that Dawkins and his staff is known for, but certainly hopefully it transfers really well for the offensive end and kind of having some go-to scorers that can, hopefully gel well together, early on, but be able to, create their own shot when it's necessary, when it's kind of in the flow of the game is important, and something that we haven't had a whole lot of over the last couple of years is those players that can take over a game offensively. And it seems to be so far in this transfer class that we've gotten, as far as the players that have come in, they're very capable on the offensive end, and so that's good to see.
So, Ben, I have a question for you. We've got a whole lot of guards.
Right.
We're pressing all game, full court press. Next 5, get in there and press.
Well, I mean, I see that, right? Like you mentioned his rebounds. It's like the Allen type role player. And I don't mean our Allen. I mean like Allen from last year. And then we had who was the guard the year before that was I think he was from ECU that was like that as well. So it seems like there's a mold for that, right? But we obviously have the big 5-star center coming in. We've got a forward, like a high level forward, but I see a lot of guards on this. Are you expecting us to play more like a Houston type team next year? Is that what Johnny's trying to do? Or because we've got a lot of point scoring guys,
right,
and a lot of we've got a couple of people that can play the 3 or 4 because of the size, but they're listed as guards. Small 3s, or small 4s, is that what we expect to see next year?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have, as you said, Roger, we don't have a listed center on the. I mean, that's a position that's kind of. I want to say it's going away, especially as somebody who played center my entire life. But like the game is definitely evolved and changed, and that's not as an important position to like, if you don't have one on your team, it's not gonna,
we have one.
Well, yes, he hasn't. I mean, it's kind
he
of
hasn't signed yet.
It's kind of like the worst kept secret. It's kind of the worst kept secret that Mustafa Thiam, who is a top 100, top 50 actually player in the nation,
5-star,
the number 1 center in the nation as far as the class of 2025 is concerned, it's kind of the worst kept secret that he is going to reclassify at some point and come in the class of 2024 for UCF. And so maybe that's the reason why we haven't necessarily gone after any other centers. Now, granted, he's going to come in, he's going to be a young freshman and as talented as Thiam is, like, how much of that kind of freshman growing pains is he going to, experience? I don't know, but we certainly have with guys like JJ Taylor, who you talked about last week, Rokas Josias, who we talked about a few weeks ago. We've got some size, like 6'10", 6'9", 6'8" guys. It appears on paper that we might be kind of gearing up towards that, playing with even more pace than we did last season, and kind of, I don't want to call it small ball, but just having, capable rebounders at all 5 positions. And, it kind of doesn't matter what that we don't have a true center. We seem to be kind of tacking that way. And defensively, there hasn't been a ton of like objective differences between Houston and UCF as far as like scheme wise. Obviously, they've attracted some different types of players, and they play a little bit different style offensively. So that's the reason that's the biggest difference between those two teams. But I wouldn't be surprised if you see that kind of style coming together as far as personnel goes, especially with the talent that we're attracting on this roster. If this talent, at least on paper, can come together and gel quickly in a similar fashion that last year's team came together and gelled quickly, I think that there could be a combination that we will really enjoy as UCF fans, and we'll just have to wait and see, because I mean it's a collection of talent that all individually look great, and hopefully they can experience some chemistry on the front, early on, and we'll see what happens, especially with two guys, obviously, that did stick around and that are that seem to be very huge advocates for UCF. Darius Johnson, who always has been, but certainly Jalen Sellers, sticking around and sticking with our team and being such a kind of vocal advocate for UCF's program, in particular Johnny Dawkins. And so I think those two guys kind of leading the team, and then hopefully being able to help everyone else kind of gel with talent. One last thing about Jordan Ivy Curry. He had a teammate that used to be on UCF last year. He played with Dre Fuller at UTSA last season. And so maybe just some discussions with Dre led him to feel even more comfortable about transferring to UCF. So hopefully he's a great addition, along with the guys that we've been talking about over the last 3 or 4 weeks, where it really seems like this transfer class is shaping up, and this team for 2024, 2025 is shaping up for UCF, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, so points definitely are clearly a premium for Johnny Dawkins this year. The other thing is we've got 2 new basketball assistants that I'd love for you to kind of educate us on. They, to me, with all the activity and the recent transfers and the signing of 2 new assistants, it seems to me like the Johnny Dawkins contract question may have been resolved. I kind of look at that as a kind of a sign, because I doubt very many people are going to sign on as assistants. If they feel like there's a question or 1 year left on a contract. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Carlos Dotson, who just announced today, and Nolan Smith, and what you know about them?
Yeah, Carlos Dotson is a guy that seems to be really integrated in multiple different levels as far as his assistant coaching career so far. He's a relatively young guy still, but he most recently was with the LA Clippers organization in the NBA. So I mean, that's a star-studded organization as far as some big personalities on that team. James Harden, Russell Westbrook. Yeah, I mean, we've got some Paul George. I mean, we've got some big players, the big name players that are on that team, and then also a coach in Ty Lue that is pretty highly regarded in the NBA as far as not only his organizational skills, but his X's and O's skills as well. And his concentration coming into UCF is going to be a focus on player development. And that was his role with the Clippers organization, where he was essentially a player development director or coach or whatever you want to call it. But he and just reading some of the articles that, of course, UCF put out about him today, and just in general, the quotes that you hear from those big name players that I mentioned is, he was an integral part of my development. He was an integral part of this organization. He's very, very highly regarded. Carlos Dotson is by all of the players that he has seemed to coach, throughout his career. And so I think that's not only great to hear from an experience level, but it's great to hear from what he could bring to our team and our players, and whether it be recruiting or just simply helping our existing players develop into the best players that they can be. And so that's really exciting to hear how highly regarded Carlos Dotson is. And so that was announced today. We're recording on Monday night. The other assistant coach that we appear to be signing, and it hasn't been officially announced yet by UCF, but it's been I guess expected. He's expected to sign very soon. As our other assistant coach is Nolan Smith, and Nolan Smith was a former assistant coach with Duke, a former assistant coach with Louisville most recently. Had a little bit of controversy at Louisville as far as a lot of, I guess, the firing of their former coach. He was blamed for a little bit of that, I guess. There was just a lot of, I guess, insider information, rumors swirling around that the former coach, and his name escapes me right now, but as far as certain things that went on in the huddles or the locker room that kind of was should have been kept within the team, that was leaked to the media, and there's a little bit of Nolan Smith around that apparently, but beyond that, that's just kind of media talk and gossip. But beyond that, he has come on as a very strong assistant coach in his kind of young career as being a coach. But I think one of the big things there, as far as bringing in Nolan Smith into this class, is that he is someone who was an All-American at Duke. I mean, he played at the highest levels of college basketball. He's kind of done everything as a player that that any player coming into UCF and at UCF really aspires to be. And I think that's great to have that kind of example on your staff. And he's somebody that Johnny Dawkins is very, very comfortable with and familiar with. I mean, he's literally known him since he was a 4-year-old child, essentially, because Johnny Dawkins knew his dad. And so certainly bringing him in on this staff, I think, will in the long run turn out to be a really great thing. And so I'm excited about that. And I'm hoping that both of these coaching additions will not only pay huge dividends on the recruiting front, but of course the development front, especially if we got a guy like Thiem coming in here and others that are, hopefully we continue to build up some of our high school recruiting as well, along with the transfers.
Yep. So along with this, we've taken Memphis's recruiting class from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's
highly regarded recruiting class too. Yeah.
Well, sorry, Penny. We love you in Orlando.
I have two questions. Is Nolan Smith, is that he played point guard at Duke, right? Is that?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay. He was good. I remember he was pretty good.
If I'm not mistaken, he might have been point guard with. No, it wasn't with JJ Redick. It was after JJ Redick. He might have been there with John Shire, potentially.
Okay.
I'd have to look.
My second question for you: do you miss the old school big man?
I do. I definitely do. I mean,
we've kind of had it here. It's like at UCF, we've kind of like kept that tradition going for the past. Yeah. I mean, since Taco.
Yeah, right. I mean, guys like Michael Durr and Diallo last year. I mean, we definitely kept that alive a little bit. It's funny though, Trey, you asked that question because it's like I think about I was always the type of player growing up that I was the tallest, but I was just always so rail thin, and so my son is doing like some basketball camps with some of my former teammates that run.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. I see.
Yeah, 6'8", isn't he? Isn't your son 6'8"?
No. He's 10 years old. So he's
I know. He's like 6'8"
No,
or 10.
he's not that tall yet.
Oh, okay.
But he is tall. He is tall. But it's just funny because my teammates were saying,
What percentile is he? Is he like 215th percentile?
Well, they only go up to 100, but and then you're considered off the charts after that. But no, he's on like the 99th percentile or whatever. And my oldest daughter though is like way off the charts. Like Reedley is just like way off the charts. Anyways, she plays volleyball. And so, but I was just saying, just because like growing up, it was like, and they were mentioning it to me the other day. They were like, man, you played more of a, kind of outside or finesse game or whatever, but you also had the post moves. I just could never gain any weight. And so I couldn't play like Shaq, even though I would have loved to have had that body type to play like Shaq.
Ben Diesel.
Yeah, I had to play a little bit differently, but it's just funny because I say that to say that I feel like I grew up in like the wrong era of basketball. Like, who knows what could have been if I grew up in this era of basketball. And it's kind of fun as a father to be able to coach my son through that.
Yeah.
You need to know you need to have the ability. Really, at any position you're going to play, you have to have the ability to post up, and you have to have the ability to play in the paint. And certainly, he's going to have to learn that as well. But it's kind of fun for him that he's not chained with his back to the block, and and just it's all post ups and hook shots and rebounds and all that stuff. It's kind of fun for me. I do miss it a little bit, in the sense that I watch NBA, and I do miss, being able to watch guys like Shaquille O'Neal and others. And my favorite player growing up was Hakeem Olajuwon. And so he was kind of, he was kind of one of the first, well, that's Dikembe Mutombo.
Dikembe. Yeah, that was the no for me.
So I mean, he was just, as far as who I wanted to play like, it was always Hakeem the Dream. But certainly, seeing some of these players today is it's kind of fun to see if my son will develop into a more well-rounded ball player, even though he, more than likely will be pretty darn tall.
So I will say this, and it's not just because of you, Ben. Your wife's pretty tall too.
She is, yeah. She's 6 foot. So.
Yeah. So she's 6 foot. You sure she's not taller than that?
Yeah.
I don't know. All right. Good. So I will say this. One quick other note on hoops, real quick. The Big 12 Conference will be going to 20 conference games from 18. That was announced before. Obviously, we're adding 4 new schools, and they're even stronger basketball ads than they are football. So that's exciting. Let's go ahead and pivot and talk a little bit. There we go. Pivot. Let's talk a little UCF baseball. UCF beat North Florida 7-4 in a game that had actually been rescheduled. We did lose the series to number 18 Texas 2-1. Obviously, last week you heard us say we felt like we needed to win 6 out of the last 8 to comfortably be in the conference without having to worry about winning too many games in the conference tournament. However, we did lock up our seed in the conference tournament, which was good. The first game we really could have won as well. The second game we did well. The offense played pretty well, but again, this series offensively, we've left a lot of guys on base, and that's kind of been a bugaboo as of late, more so. And our pitching. Now, Texas, those guys, you heard Coach Wally talk about it. Their roster, they 1 through 9, pretty solid players all the way through. I will say, you don't want to complain too much about the umps, but there were some questionable calls and key moments in that last third game. That being said, we do play Bethune-Cookman this week, and then we end our series, our conference season this year with Baylor. That will be on Thursday. So it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Traditionally, it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but that will give us a little extra rest. So excited about that. I still believe this team will make the tournament. They're pretty scrappy. I think they've got enough. We were talking about in the text talk, Ben and I were kind of going back and forth, and what I see, and maybe it was a little bit of a hot take, but I just feel like the bullpen, Kramer pitched out of a jam this last game, and the game before that he did pretty well. But that the bullpen just hasn't been what it was in the first half of the season. Obviously, we're playing tough competition. This is, I think, like the third ranked league or something like that as far as baseball is concerned, behind the SEC. We're 31-17 right now and 12-14 in the Big 12. I feel like if we beat Baylor or sweep Baylor, which I think is possible, and I definitely think we'll beat Bethune, I feel like we're in the driver's seat for a postseason berth. Now, where we're at, where we're going to play, what seed we're going to be, all of that stuff, I don't know. But the Big 12 is a pretty good baseball league, and I feel like we would definitely make the postseason. What I don't want to do is end up dropping one to Baylor, and then going into, because that is a lot of pressure on the guys to sweep, right? It's one thing if you sweep, or if it's a big series or whatever. It's another thing if you have to do that for your postseason hopes. But I'm hoping we don't have to rely on the Big 12 tournament to make our postseason. This team deserves it. To me, the pitching staff has kind of waned a little bit the last third of the season. They were on fire. We still got some great pitchers. Staggs, I think, could have started for Texas. He pitched really, really well. And again, the team's played well. It's just not as shut down as it was earlier on in the season. And we just don't seem, you heard Coach Cindy Bear Malone talk about it when she was talking about the softball tournament. Last year, that team always seemed to have the clutch hit. And this team on baseball, early on the season, they always seem to have the clutch hit or the clutch, pitching performance to close out the game, and it just hasn't happened as much. But again, we're in a good league. This is a good team. I just hope they finish off strong. Nobody's doubting their heart, because they've been in it. I mean, they came back against Texas late again. They seem to have a penchant in the 8th and 9th inning to turn on the it's always like the 5th and the 6th inning they score a bunch, and then like the 8th and the 9th inning they score a bunch. So
who was it? The triple? Who hit the Neareye hit the triple in clutch on Saturday? That was insane. That was just it was obviously, it was almost the game-winning hit, considering they gave up that solo home run. So essentially it was the insurance run that we absolutely had to have, because you never know what could happen if that was just a if that tied the game, that solo shot that Texas had.
Here's a crazy stat for you, and this may be more about the pitching staff than anything else, but I haven't really looked at the stats on what the scores were to really say that for sure. 75% of Sunday games we have lost.
Yeah, that's tough. You can't. We haven't been able to, as you said. You mentioned the, hopefully being able to get a sweep this weekend, and I'm not sure about this. I may be wrong, but I don't believe in conference we've ever swept. We haven't swept a Big 12 team yet on a weekend series. I don't believe. Could be wrong.
I think we have. I think
I'd have to look up to see what number it was. And just to clarify, I didn't have an issue with the explained take that you had in the talk text. I had an issue with the words "lost their killer instinct." Because to me, as somebody who watches a lot of baseball and is
I do too.
I'm thinking to
we
myself,
both do.
A killer instinct, that implies that they're not like trying hard. They're like not like running out the bases. They're not going after every ball in the field. And I'm like, nah, that's the only thing I had an issue with. It was the choice of words when you said they lost their killer instinct. And just on that note, though, fielding, as far as errors go, I am one of the things that Wally really said when we interviewed him prior to this season, that he observed of last year's UCF team, that him coming in here wanted to install in the culture of something that is going to be the standard, that the fielding, fielding is going to be really strong with this team, especially up the middle, is one of the things that I remember him saying in that interview prior to the season. And with one more conference series left, UCF is number one in the Big 12 in fielding percentage. They have the lowest amount of errors of any team in the Big 12. And so I think that is worth noting. Even against a team like Texas, who's number 18 in the country and the highest slugging percentage in the Big 12, they, even in that case, there wasn't really like, any. There was a couple errors in the series, not many in the each game, but a couple errors in the series, but nothing that really cost us. And I think that stated one of the stated standards of Rich Wallace's, kind of coming in here as the head coach of his alma mater, is accomplished in year one, and that's really fantastic for them. So,
all right,
carry that into this postseason here.
Yep, I'm excited about baseball. I know Alan doesn't care, but I do watch. I do watch all the baseball games, and Ben knows that because I give updates, and Josh watches a lot of them too. We talked about that last week, unfortunately, with the Houston game, but we ended up winning that one, so it turned out okay. All right, so let's move on here. Let's talk about Alan's oxymoronic stat of the week. He had promised us for a couple of weeks to examine wide receivers versus DBs in the NFL for UCF. What you got for us this week?
You're muted.
You're muted, Alan.
Okay, sorry. All right.
We were talking about baseball, so he muted himself.
Yeah, he was like, I got nothing to say about baseball.
I got nothing to contribute there. No, we were saying last week or the week before that I thought that DBs historically had outperformed wide receivers in the NFL. I think Roger said he wasn't sure about that. He thought it might be wide receivers. So I did a breakdown, drafted wide receivers versus DBs, as well as guys that have played at least a snap in the regular season of the NFL. So someone like Trey Nixon, for example, got drafted by the Patriots, but has still not played a single snap in the regular season, has only been on the practice squad. So I'm not counting him when I go over some of these statistics as far as, production in the NFL. So the drafted DB wins that one out. DBs, we've had 14 DBs drafted and 12 wide receivers drafted. Obviously, those are the top two positions that have been drafted for UCF, with DB being number one. Out of those draft picks, I took the first 3 rounds, just kind of seemed like a nice, easy way to do it. The first 3 rounds of the top 3 rounds. There were total of 4 wide receivers that have been drafted in rounds 1 through 3, and a total of 6 DBs that have been drafted in rounds 1 through 3. First round, though, we've had 1 wide receiver, 1 DB. Brashad Perriman for wide receiver, Mike Hughes for defensive back. NFL receivers all time that have played a down in the NFL, wide receivers 15, DBs 17. So DB pretty much has had the edge so far throughout all of this. Super Bowl champions, I had to really go back and search this. we've had 2 wide receivers that have won a Super Bowl. Didn't necessarily contribute, but they were on the team and got a ring. That would be Jacob Harris with the Rams. He was on the practice squad. And then Charles Lee with the 2002 Tampa Bay Bucks. Then DBs, we've had 4 Super Bowl winning DBs. DJ Killens. What was that?
Eagles. I said, man,
DJ
we're beating the right receivers easy, just like practice.
Oh, easy. DJ Killens won the practice squad with the Eagles. Atari Bigby was on the Packers. Asante Samuels, 2-time Super Bowl winner on the Pats. And then Cornell Green won with the 2002 Bucks. Then a couple more things. Pro Bowl DBs have had 3 Pro Bowlers, would be AJ Boye with the Jags. Asante
He was a
Samuel.
baller.
Yeah, he was. Asante Samuel, 4-time Pro Bowler with the Eagles and the Pats. And then Shaquille Griffin was a 1-time Pro Bowler with the Seahawks. And then the only wide receiver to be a Pro Bowler is obviously Brandon Marshall. He's a 6-time Pro Bowler with 4 different teams. And then All-Pro is tied 1-1. Brandon Marshall is an All-Pro receiver, and Asante Samuel was an All-Pro DB. So pretty much by all metrics, DB has wide receiver beat as far as UCF in the NFL. Not massively in each category, but it pretty much has kind of swept the board.
And we've had some really
a win by 1 or a win by 30. It's a win note regardless.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, so Alan owes Trey some steaks. All right, thank you for doing that, Alan. That was awesome. That was an awesome breakdown, honestly, because
really cool.
there's a lot of good wide receivers that have come through UCF that we can think about. So it's surprising to me. I still don't see how Asante Samuel's not in the Hall, but that's a discussion for another day. All right. Having said all of that, it is now time for Josh's sometimes funny fact of the week. Josh, take it away.
So I have nothing good with sports except for I thought Sean Jefferson won a ring with the Patriots in '96.
He's appeared in 2 Super Bowls, but did not win either of those Super Bowls.
Whoa!
So appearances that could have been
stats off. Do we have a stats off going on right now?
No, it's not a stats off. I know he was on the Patriots, but it depends on when he was on the Patriots. But yeah, he definitely has appeared in 2. All right, let me get to the completely random fun fact. All right, this is actually a little less random than you think when we talk about what we do on the show, specifically Roger at times. So we have Nye coming on, and she is helping us with our social media. And we talked about IG, which we all know is Instagram. Could you tell me the original name of what Instagram was before it was Instagram?
Facebook?
No, Facebook.
No, when it was being developed in San Francisco, what was it called?
What was the thing that Vince Vaughn calls it in the internship? Exchangeogram. Exchangeogram.
Exchangeogram, I remember that.
I think it's something that I enjoy, if I remember correctly. Wasn't it like bourbon? Wasn't it bourbon or something like that?
It was bourbon. Very, very good.
And the only reason I know that is because I enjoy bourbon.
It's BURBN. Remember back in the day when everything just took every vowel out of the game, out of the name? Yeah, bourbon. BURBN was the original name when it began development, not Instagram. Much, much better name than
Good
bourbon.
thing they pivoted there. Jeez, that's
I know. Seriously.
That makes so much sense.
I would have been okay with bourbon. I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, I love bourbon too, but I was thinking of there was a version of, it was like the liquor version of Untapped called Distillery. That was a fad for like a hot second, where Untapped was a little more longevity there. But yeah, I didn't realize that they were called bourbon at one point. I don't know if they would have taken it off with that name because it kind of doesn't really have the
Well, I
same.
think they might have because, okay, I'm
Because
going to
you
talk.
like bourbon? I like
you
bourbon
would
too.
be fine with it.
I would be totally cool with it. I mean, call it Eagle Rare or Boss Hog or whatever you want to call it. Bourbon is good. So, all right. Thank you for that, Josh. That was actually pretty interesting, and
There you go.
I'm glad I actually randomly knew that. It's probably because I have gray hair in my beard. With Trey being 41, he should have known that fact.
And
too.
a half.
Oh, come on. 41 and a half. Come on, bro. No, Alan, I didn't look it up on Google. Thank you. I did not look that up on Google. Okay.
We heard you typing in the background.
I'm not the one who beats my keys on here. It's you and Josh. That's the two of you.
Listen,
remember?
I have to figure out these things live because I try to do the fun fact of I pre-plan it if I can. If I don't find anything good, I try to take something from the show. It's called continuity and wrapping it all up.
All right, wrap. All right. Let's go ahead and move on to our quick update on other UCF sports that Alan does not watch.
So Alan definitely does not watch UCF softball. Unfortunately, what Alan missed was losing to Baylor 3-2 in the first round of the Big 12 championships. We were those selected, and I think we're either the last four in or the last team in, but we are in. We're going to be in Tallahassee for the NCAA tournament. We're going to play Auburn. That'll be on Friday, I think at 1 p.m. if I remember correctly. Not in the notes, but off the top.
And we played them in 2021 as well in the tournament. Do you know if they've fixed the stadium yet, the softball stadium? Because they had a tornado go through there last week, I think, and did some damage at the softball stadium and the baseball stadium. And I know that because I'm back home in Santa Rosa Beach, and we had a tornado warning today.
Oh, geez. I knew there was one a couple of days ago, too, with some nasty weather coming through Florida, but I guess they have a few days to go. Maybe the best I can give you. So we think UCF softball is going to be playing Tallahassee, allegedly. How about that?
Allegedly, I like that.
Allegedly. Alan absolutely does not watch UCF women's golf. I can tell you that. They're playing the regionals, the 5 seed.
I watch pro men's golf.
No. Hold on. Oh. Alan didn't update that. We gave that update last week.
Yeah, I thought they did not do good last week. I was reading that and I'm like, but you know what? I have to trust the gentleman who creates the notes. Because I do not, and I will openly admit to that.
All right, so hold on.
So I actually
so facts beat stats in this one.
Yeah, that's fair because the facts weren't correct.
Wow!
Those facts. Alan's facts are always correct.
In fairness to me, I looked up women's golf when I was doing this morning. I looked it up. And it said something like their next game was their last game was in like September. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to go check on this later. And I never did. So that's just
we appreciate the transparency, Alan.
Yeah.
We're all about truth and transparency around here.
I thought the season was over or didn't start yet, or I wasn't. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to go look at this later. And I just straight up did not.
It is over, Alan. You are correct. It is definitely over.
It's nearly June, and Alan said it didn't start yet. It was over in a week and a half.
The PJ Championships this week, and that's what I'm concerned with in golf.
Alan clearly does not care or does not watch women's golf. So we've established
we placed 9th. It was on Wednesday. It was.
However, I will say this: UCF women's track, Renaya did qualify for the NCAAs again this year. So she is a superstar. I know most people are not going to go watch track, but follow her on the NCAAs. She is not only a borderline Olympian. She almost made the Olympic team last year. She is a world record holder. She is a once in a generation athlete for track, and great representative for UCF. Has been amazing as a student athlete, gives back to the community, and she's worthy, and you should be proud that she represents the black and gold. So make sure that you're checking her out and at least following along.
Yeah, I will say she actually won, and this is how much Alan doesn't watch track and field. She actually is the first Big 12 champion for UCF.
Correct.
Because she won the 100-meter hurdles, and that is our first athlete in UCF history to secure a Big 12 title.
So she's the
All
only
right.
Big 12
Awesome.
champion.
Well, thank you for that sometimes funny fact.
So I'm sorry, I just want to make sure. So
Yes.
she is the only Big 12 champion on campus, is Renaya Jones. That's it.
That is correct.
Wow, how about that?
First, I don't know
But
if
not
any
last.
of the other. Yes,
Well, I'm just saying.
that's reserved for you, Josh. So, okay, so we're 2 hours and 24 minutes in. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. First of all, I want to say thank you to everyone for the 10,000 views. We've been playing with the shorts a little bit, so be on the lookout for that. Thank you for everyone, including Nobra, for getting us there, right? And I'm excited to see what Nye is going to do for our social media game. Oh my gosh, Josh is having too much fun with this. He's putting in the notes, playing with the shorts. Better than playing with the swords.
You said it.
Better than playing in the woods with swords, Josh. Let's just put it that way.
That was a crazy moment.
Actual sword.
Yes,
You're playing with your
all right.
sword.
We're not going into details about your sword. All right. That being said, I clearly I want to thank everybody that's involved. We started this back in August. We obviously have a good time. We got a great group of people. We're adding Nye to the mix. I'm excited to see what she's going to do for us. We're growing, and we're growing because of all of you. So thank you so much. Make sure you continue to like, subscribe, comment, give us recommendations, feedback, all that fun stuff. Josh is in vogue right now. If you're watching this on the screen, if you've made it this long, go Knights and
John, playing with the shorts and growing.
Growing.
Seriously? You hear the word